To begin this painting, I start with a linear drawing. Here I'm focused on the foundations, the structure of the head. I use the Loomis and Reilly abstractions to build the head from scratch, always thinking about the skull for construction and the Asaro head for the general planes. I'm considering the design of each feature and drawing from what I know about the underlying anatomy to describe everything accurately and believably. Next, I take time to map out my shadows. This drawing is like the foundation of a house. Before I can decorate, I need a solid base. This is arguably the hardest part of any painting. If I get this right, the rest will go much more smoothly. So don't rush through this phase. Do enough starts, and the finishes will take care of themselves. Once I've got my drawing in place, I split it into two main value groups, light and dark. This helps me to keep track of my masses once I start adding more values. Then I begin with my midtones and work outward towards my darkest darks and lightest lights. I usually leave the highlights until the very end. As I start painting, notice how I'm placing each brushstroke carefully. This is called tiling, placing one tile of paint next to another, like building a mosaic. Tiling keeps my brushwork disciplined and prevents me from blending too soon. At this stage, I'm focused on local values, not precise control yet, just the average value of each area. The goal right now is to cover the canvas, to give myself something to work with later when I start refining my values, shapes and edges. It's important to not get too attached to the initial drawing. As I start adding paint, those lines will begin to disappear. That's why drawing is so essential. As I lose that information, I need to rely on my understanding of proportion, structure and spatial relationships to rebuild it through paint. When moving into the shadows, I remind myself to thin my darks and thicken my lights. The variation in paint thickness helps create the illusion of depth. When I get to the beard, I treat it the same way I would hair on the head. I focus on the big shapes and the overall value, not the tiny strands. Details come later. First, I have to understand the primary forms before moving into the secondary and tertiary ones. Now, let's talk about the ugly stage. Every painting goes through it. It's easy to feel discouraged when things aren't looking great, but this is where patience matters most. Just keep going. Get something on the surface. Anything. Oil paint is rather forgiving. You can scrape, blend and push it around until it starts to come together. With each layer of paint, I'm refining my decisions, values, shapes, edges. Now that my local values are established, I start to climb the value scale, pushing towards the lightest lights and darkest darks. Each pass adds more information, more clarity, more life. Take a look at my palette. I keep my paint mixtures grouped together, all within the same puddle family. That keeps my colours harmonised. Since they share the same parent mixtures, the temperatures and hues naturally stay unified. Occasionally, I'll tear down parts of the painting, softening transitions with my finger, a palette knife, or a soft brush. Then I'll build it back up again, adding a fresh layer over those softened passages. Painting is this constant push and pull, a back and forth between structure and softness, until it feels organic and alive. Once the big shapes are in place, I move into smaller forms, wrinkles, pupils, subtle halftones. It's natural to lean in close at this stage, but don't forget to step back. Squint at your painting and remind yourself of the big picture. It's easy to lose those larger forms when focusing on details. The peripheral elements, the ear, the hair, or maybe even hands, deserve care too. You don't want to render them so tightly that they steal attention from the focal point, but you also don't want them to look careless. Think of them as supporting actors. They play an important role, but they shouldn't take center stage. Patience is everything in painting. You'll wrestle with it, you'll struggle with it, but you'll come out the other side. Stay focused on the fundamentals: shape, value, and edge. That's where the truth of a painting lives. For this portrait, I decided to vignette the image, to let it fade out gracefully rather than painting to the edges. It's a personal preference, but one I find elegant. Every great painting is part what you see, part what you know, and part what you wish you saw. In this painting, I stayed fairly true to what I saw, but I also made some artistic choices. Sharpening the nose, emphasizing the cheekbones, and adding interesting texture to the beard. The final stages are all about finesse. Once the head is well structured, the features are in place, and the values are solid, you can relax a little. The largest battle is over. Now it's just about refining what's already there. What counts as finished is different for every artist. Some prefer the loose, expressive look of Nikolai Fechin. Others, the refined finish of Sargent or Bouguereau. For this piece, I'm exploring that higher level of refinement, a more polished, deliberate finish. I usually end with the highlights, sometimes a bit earlier, but they're the final punctuation marks of the painting. And with that, we have it, a finished oil portrait completed in 5 hours. There is currently over 50 hours of portrait painting and portrait drawing demonstrations available on my Patreon. In the painting demonstrations, we cover the basic palette from the phthalo blue, black and white palette, the burnt umber and white palette. Then we start to go a little bit more chromatic with the Zorn palette, and then eventually into the full color palette. I'm currently in the process of creating a drawing course. I'm releasing 1 drawing demonstration per week. That's That's where we go over the essentials of portrait drawing, because in order to be a good portrait painter, you need to know how to draw well. We start off with the Loomis head, going into the Reilly method, the Asaro head, we go into the skull, we go into the individual features of the face, teaching you the anatomy and underlying structure of each feature. And then I lead you into a fully fledged drawing where we go into the initial laying of a drawing all the way through to the finished rendering. So if that's something that interests you, go to patreon.com/LewisMeader and you'll get all this content and all of the upcoming videos for just £9.99 per month. So if you want to level up your portrait painting and drawing skills, follow the link in the bio to my Patreon. Thank you.